The Zetharian High Command had conquered 47 star systems in 3 centuries. Their armada had reduced civilizations to ash, their weapons had shattered moons, and their reputation preceded them like a shadow across the galaxy. When they arrived at the small blue planet orbiting an unremarkable yellow star, they expected nothing more than another swift victory. Fleet Commander Vorthak studied the primitive world from his flagship's observation deck. The planet's inhabitants had barely achieved fusion technology. Their vessels were clumsy, chemical-propelled contraptions that couldn't even breach their own solar system efficiently. Intelligence reports indicated they still fought among themselves over resources and ideological differences. It would be like crushing an insect beneath an armored boot. "Deploy the standard intimidation formation," Vorthak ordered, his mandibles clicking with satisfaction. "Surround the planet. Let them see the futility of resistance." 3,000 warships materialized from hyperspace, forming a perfect sphere around Earth. Each vessel was a kilometer long, bristling with plasma cannons and graviton beam emitters. The formation was designed to break the spirit of any opposition before a single shot was fired. Within hours, every nation on Earth detected the fleet. Panic spread across continents. Stock markets crashed. Religious leaders proclaimed the end times. Politicians scrambled for solutions that didn't exist. But in a bunker beneath the mountains of Colorado, General Sarah Chen wasn't praying or panicking. She was calculating. "They're in a perfect sphere formation," she observed, studying the tactical display. "Mathematically beautiful. Strategically stupid." Her staff exchanged nervous glances. One junior officer found the courage to speak. "General, with all due respect, we're facing a fleet that could glass the planet in minutes. How is their formation relevant?" Chen smiled grimly. "Because humans don't fight fair, Lieutenant. We never have." The Zetharians issued their ultimatum: unconditional surrender within 24 Earth hours or face annihilation. They expected pleading. They expected desperate negotiations. They expected fear. Instead, they got silence. Then, precisely 23 hours after the ultimatum, every satellite around Earth began moving. Communication satellites, weather satellites, even defunct orbital debris started shifting position. The Zetharians watched with mild curiosity as hundreds of these primitive objects formed a loose cloud around the planet. "Defensive posture," Vorthak's tactical officer reported. "Ineffective. Their technology cannot harm our shields," Vorthak agreed. The satellites detonated, but these weren't conventional explosives. Decades of research into nuclear weapons had taught humanity something the Zetharians had forgotten in their centuries of easy conquest. Sometimes the simplest weapons are the most devastating. Each satellite contained a nuclear device, and each detonation occurred at a precise point calculated to maximize one specific effect. Electromagnetic pulse. The cascade was instant and catastrophic. 3,000 warships, their shields optimized against energy weapons and kinetic projectiles, found their systems overwhelmed by an electromagnetic storm of unprecedented magnitude. Navigation failed. Weapon systems locked. Communication arrays went dark. And then Earth's surface came alive. Every nation had contributed to what they called Operation Hornet's Nest. Thousands of missiles, primitive by galactic standards but devastatingly effective in a vacuum, streaked upward. The Zetharian ships, blind and paralyzed, couldn't evade, couldn't return fire, couldn't even send a distress signal. But humanity wasn't done. High-velocity railgun projectiles, launched from hidden installations across the globe, tore through the disabled vessels. Laser arrays, dismissed by Zetharian intelligence as developmental technology, carved through hulls like hot wire through wax. And experimental weapons, things humanity had built but never dared use on itself, were unleashed without hesitation. Vorthak watched his fleet die around him. Emergency systems struggled to reboot. He managed to restore partial communications just in time to hear the screams of 3,000 ships reduced to 300, then 30, then 3. His own vessel shuddered as something punched through the lower decks. Atmosphere vented. Crew members were sucked into space. The mighty flagship of the Zetharian conquest fleet was being torn apart by a species that hadn't even left its own solar system. A transmission forced its way through the interference. Vorthak's view screen flickered to life, showing a human female in military uniform, General Chen. "Commander," she said calmly, "you made a tactical error. You assumed we were weak because we're primitive, but we've spent our entire existence fighting each other. We've had 5,000 years to perfect the art of warfare. We've built weapons designed to destroy ourselves dozens of times over. We know every dirty trick, every desperate strategy, every brutal method of killing that exists. Vorthak's translator struggled with her next words, but the meaning was clear enough. You picked the wrong planet to invade. The transmission ended. Moments later, Vorthak's flagship split in two, its fusion core breached by a kinetic penetrator moving at a fraction of light speed. Of the 3,000 ships that surrounded Earth, 73 managed to flee into hyperspace, their crews traumatized and their vessels barely functional. They carried a warning back to the Zetharian homeworld: avoid the third planet of the yellow star. The inhabitants are insane. They turned their own self-destructive nature into a weapon. The Zetharian High Command, for the first time in 3 centuries, felt something they'd forgotten how to name: fear. On Earth, General Chen stood before the United Nations Assembly. The world was still processing what had happened. They had won, but the victory felt surreal. We need to prepare, Chen told the assembled nations. They'll come back eventually. Maybe not the Zetharians, but someone will. And next time, we need to be ready to take the fight to them. She paused, looking at the faces of leaders from every nation, united for perhaps the first time in human history. Today we learned something important. We're not weak. We're not primitive. We're survivors. And anything that threatens our survival will learn what countless civilizations on this planet have already discovered. Humanity doesn't just fight to win. We fight like our existence depends on it, because it does. The alien Armada had surrounded Earth expecting an easy victory. Instead, they discovered why apex predators should never corner their prey. They never returned home.